I'd like to obviously just introduce Ed Robinson, who is the one of the more senior, I would say, and experienced people of the wine trade and a wine buyer with an extraordinary reputation and track record. And obviously, we're very proud to collaborate with CoOp, with the Fairtrade wines. And this is an opportunity just to talk a little bit in more detail behind the background, not only of how something this challenging comes about, but also the detail behind what the Fairtrade project, which we're involved in, means to those people on the farms, but also in general about Fairtrade. And I think it's really important to understand that it takes a lot of hard work. So Ed, maybe before we introduce the main stars of the show, maybe you can just give us a little background in terms of CoOps philosophy and how Fairtrade plays into that.
Thanks for the introduction, Bruce. Yeah, happy to. Thanks for having me on the call. I'm delighted to be part of this. Delighted to be working with you on this project. The CoOp's been around for a long time. We've been around since 1844. I haven't. Probably look like I have. And during that time, the basis of our business is community involvement. We're a community retailer. And our business is heavily involved in supporting the communities which it serves. But what do you do when the goods you're buying? This is a question we were asking about 20 years ago. And we were the first business to launch a Fairtrade wine. So back then, there were Fairtrade standards for tea, coffee, sugar and whatnot, but none for wine. So that's where it all started, really. And it's with the early days importing Fairtrade wine out of South Africa. We're proud to say we're the first. Today we're the biggest, and each year we sell something in the order of 15 million litres of Fairtrade wine. So you can see that it does have quite an impact, and it's a wonderful thing to be involved in terms of helping the people who make these lovely wines. Working with Bruce on this project, it's been a pleasure. And not only has it been a pleasure, it's been a natural fit, I think. It's been a natural fit for us because the wine's great. We love working with somebody who's got the cachet and the quality associations of Bruce. The proof of the pudding's in the eating, and we've got a lovely wine to look forward to. So very much look forward to tasting that. Thank you for having me.
Ed, thanks so much. It's wonderful to see you healthy and happy and doing the great work that you're doing. And Luit, I just want to let you know you can't drink the whole bottle in one go because you've only got like 48 hours before you run on the rugby field. So you've got to go slowly. So, Luit,
rest of the bottle
today. Well, I mean, being a big guy like you probably can get away with it. But I mean, it's wonderful to have you involved, and you've been a stalwart of this collaboration between Bruce Jack Wines and the Sale Sharks. It means so much to us to have a South African involved, because obviously what that does is it connects us not only in terms of philosophy and rugby, but also in terms of country. And as we know, Marlon is one of us now as well. So it's really wonderful that we can be associated with you guys. Look, maybe you can just talk a little bit about your involvement.
Yes, firstly, I feel just really privileged to be able to give something back in a small part. Actually, a guy like Marlon has done a lot more than me. He's done some really special work with Centre Point, and I've just done my little bit for the Sharks Community Trust. But yeah, anyway, we can give back and help people to enjoy sport and come together through sport, because I think that's a big thing for a lot of people is the social interaction you get from being involved in sports and in teams, and the friends you make, and friendships that'll last a lifetime. So for me, shortly, the Sharks Community Trust, we work with 12,000 people annually across the Northwest, and 10,000 people taking part in rugby of some sort. That's just on the bigger scale. For me, what I was involved with is that it's 25 participants weekly that participate in football sessions at Man City, so at their facilities, and it's disabilities ranging from Down syndrome, cerebral palsy, dwarf, visual impairment, and learning disabilities. So for me, that was just amazing. It's a weekly thing, and just to see the enjoyment they get from playing football and being active, and the parents and their parents enjoying seeing them enjoying themselves and having fun with friends. So for me, and from the 25 participants, 20 have attended games. Unfortunately, with COVID, it's been hard. So only 9 of them were able to be match day mascots. Hopefully we can get all of them sooner than later, if everything's back to normal, to participate in that.
It's wonderful. There is something magical about watching the inner joy burst out when kids are running around an open field. The role of rugby and the role of rugby clubs has always been something of an inspiration to me. And Doc Craven was an extraordinary visionary in what he did, because he decided to start with the school kids. He had a vision that things were going to normalize. And so he introduced, for the first time, and this was in sort of the mid-'80s, he introduced multiracial rugby teams at Craven Week for the first time. And the first of those teams were part of the Western Province Craven Week setup. And there was a team called VP Liga, or Western Province League, and that was the multiracial team. And it drew from kids across the color spectrum, and kind of you were thrown together in a dormitory in, I don't know, Windhoek or George or Paarl or somewhere equally inhospitable and difficult for all of you to deal with. And lifelong friendships were made. And I was very fortunate to have played in one of those teams. And as a result of that, I got involved in the local club where a couple of the players had been chosen from, which was Northerns on the Cape Flats. And there I experienced something that I really opened my eyes and made me grow up very quickly, which is that the club not only provided this opportunity for kids to run around with a ball and express themselves and find joy and camaraderie and learn life lessons, but it was a hot shower. And it was the only hot shower those kids were ever going to get. And part of it was a soup kitchen, and it was a hot meal. And in the cold of winter, watching that and being part of that process was extraordinarily humbling. I think that's why I also want to give back to rugby clubs and to see that happening. And one of the reasons that I was attracted to the partnership with Sale Sharks was because Adam had introduced your social upliftment and what you do within society. And that's why I'm so privileged, Marlon, to have you on this call and for you to be able to talk about and let us know more about the amazing work that you're doing.
Hi. So I think first I'll start by saying, Lude, things underplaying himself there. I think anyone who sort of gives up their sort of individual time to help people to make a difference, I think they need to be I know a lot of times not searching for that acknowledgement, but those lives are affected. He is making a difference, and I think it's very positive what he's doing. So, just like to clarify, I'm not any different to you. But yeah, for me, I think it's a bit with age. I think throughout my life, we always get given quite a lot. Being a professional sportsman, we're in an environment where we're kind of like the people who always receive, and we're never really giving back. And I think throughout my life, growing up in the Caribbean, where it's quite underprivileged, but it's quite a simplistic lifestyle. But people there haven't got opportunities, and sort of seeing someone homeless on the street who, in the past, I've been guilty of being ignorant, walking past, or not really giving them the time of day. There's a stigma that homelessness comes from people who are financially poor or are on drugs or whatever it is, and it was just causing to go out there. Actually, in this case where I got chatting to a guy who was under 18 years of age, homeless, not because he was poor or on drugs, it was more escaping home for, domestic violence. I just thought maybe it's a time for me to try to use the resources and the platform that I have to make a difference. And he'd spoken that Centrepoint was a place that he found comfort, a place where he felt supported, and so that's why I used the opportunity to sort of call the Centrepoint myself and just made him aware of the situation that and the encounter that I had, and wanted to see if there's anything I can do to help. I spoke to the club. The club were very supportive. There's still a long way to go in terms of providing accommodation, creating foundations in order that when they do take the guys off the street, there is a platform, there is a way out for them to create a second chance of life. I spoke to the guys at the club, trying to get everyone to donate a warm piece of clothing. Ended up getting, I think, throughout the whole club, over 1,000 items of clothes and toiletries, which was mind-blowing to see what we could do. And we delivered it over to them. It was. I actually got an update a few weeks ago. It's been massive. They said like 3/4 of the clothes have already gone. Loads of people have came in because obviously it was viewed on via the media here. So loads of kids were coming off the streets and trying to find centre point to try to find some clothing. So it helped sort of aid them to bring people towards centre point, because a lot of the issues they are presented with is there are a lot of false promises going out to the kids on the streets. It's having spoken to people who are there as well, there is that case of that embarrassment, that your self-esteem, not wanting to come out of your shell to seek help. So as much as Centrepoint are a fantastic charity, we obviously try to do as much as they can for the guys on the street and trying to improve their lives. And that was a way of doing so. And, there are other ideas that I've brought in a hot food night. Centrepoint are currently working on a £1.2 million project right now to rebuild their offices and create more accommodation. It's quite a passionate topic for me now, and it's something that I've really, really bought into now, and I sort of improve people and give people a better chance at life.
Oh, that's really inspirational, Marlon. I mean, I think a lot of those kids on the street are living on a wing and a prayer, and you're the wing that's answering the prayers.
Oh, no, it's not at all.
And I'm sure that's a little bit what drives Ed to be able to put wines on the shelf that he knows are contributing to the upliftment of the poorest and most disadvantaged communities. South Africa is the biggest fair trade producer in the world of wine. And of course it has to be because of our poisonous history. It is incumbent upon all of us to be part of the solution and to do what we can at every opportunity to change things. And to improve things. And look, it can sometimes seem from a South African context when you're sitting here almost impossible. But of course, that's when you learn from your rugby education that's when you get up and dig deep. But first, I want to start by just talking a little bit about the wine, because if I don't get something to drink, I'm going to get very thirsty here, and normally being a winemaker, so you can hear the crickets because we're in Africa, and the sun's going down and the braai's lit, and it's time that we got the.
Stop it, Bruce! Stop
it. Okay, so I just want to start with the. This is the Bruce Jack Fairtrade Sauvignon Blanc. It's from an area called the Brede Kloof, which is about an hour and a quarter just north of Cape Town, just along our big national road called the N1. You go through a tunnel, and as you come out of the tunnel, you're in a different world, and that's the Brede Kloof. And it's fascinating because geologically, it's a big alluvial valley, and what it offers Sauvignon. So just pour yourself a small sip, Marlon, small sip. What it kind of allows for Sauvignon Blanc is that you're able to grow wines on a sort of a flat area. You get good yields. It's relatively disease free because in South Africa we have a lot of wind, and the farm project that this particular wine originates from, and that so every single one of the grapes that is used to produce this wine is produced on a farm where there is this incredible upliftment and sort of civic center, and it's been built by the farmer. The farmer is a guy called Pierre van der Merwe. He is in fact the biggest grape grower for wine in South Africa. He's a good friend of mine. He's an extraordinary. Exceptional human being. Not only is he very successful as a businessman, but he's an incredibly good farmer, and he also has this thing within himself of improving things and doing things differently.
Een van die hoofredes hoekom ons Fairtrade geakkrediteer geraak het, is omdat Fairtrade se hoofdoel is om die mense en die plaasmense, die gemeenskap te help met sosiale opheffing. Die Fairtrade premies help die mense om hulle self op te hef op die plaas met allerlei aansoeke wat hulle kan rig aan die joint body, en as dit dan goedgekeur word, dan kan hulle hierdie projekte begin en deurloop. Die beste manier vir enige iemand buite in die publiek om by ons Fairtrade projek betrokke te raak, is natuurlik om die wyn van die rak af te koop, want deur dit te doen, kan 'n mens dan word daar premie terugbetaal aan die plaas, en ons kan dan die geld gebruik om ons projekte te dryf vir die sosiale opheffing.
Vandag is ons bekend met Fairtrade en alles het kom verander. Alles net so aan het keer het dit kom verander. En vandag het ons 'n pragtige groot sentrum met ons eie community hall wat ons het, wat ons kan gebruik vir ons eie geriewe as ons jaareindkonserte het, of as het modeling shows, of as die gemeenskap 'n troue aan het. Ons het ons eie gemeenskapsaal wat ons self kan gebruik, wat hulle nie hoef 'n ander saal te gaan hier om te gebruik. So ons hou alles in ons eie gemeenskapsaal in. Fairtrade het regtig groot wonders kom doen in die gemeenskap se lewe. Vir Fairtrade, ek sal vir ewig dankbaar wees vir Fairtrade, vir die nuwe geleenthede en vir wat nog gaan kom met Fairtrade, want ek dink sonder Fairtrade sou ons nie vandag hier gewees het waar ons is nie, sou ons kinders nie gehad het wat hulle vandag het nie, en sou ons Fairtrade gemeenskap nie gewees het waar hulle vandag is nie. So ja, ek is vir ewig dankbaar vir Fairtrade.
When we looked at this project and I went and I visited the center, I just got so passionate and worked up because it has everything from preschool to an old age facility, and it is not done in a patriarchal way where these things are forced upon the community as a sort of a top-down solution. It's actually all about it's community involvement. Everybody gets to kind of get involved, and the whole center and is managed by the people. And their representatives on the board and all the financial due diligence and everything is a collaborative process. So it is inspirational because what it does is it shows that these kind of sustainable fair trade projects can work and do work. And there are a couple of crucial elements to that are important. The first one is that you got to have decent wine. Like, you can't do it without decent wine. It doesn't work because the consumer, and Ed will tell you, the consumer will not buy it just because it's a fair trade wine. That is a bonus and an add-on and something that makes Ed and myself feel good, but the consumer, not really interested. There are some people who go out and seek fair trade. It's a minority. The first thing has got to be that this over-delivers at the price point. And so you've got to find projects to support with wine like this, where the grapes are grown by farmers and in an area where all these things come together. And then, of course, the hardest part, you've got to find guys like Ed Robinson who buy into the project and support you, because without the UK retail channel, and particularly without CoOp, none of these dreams can become a possibility. So it is an ultimate global team effort, and it all relies on delicious wine. And luckily, it's something we can do well in South Africa.
Cheers.
Cheers,
Ed, it's showing really well. Oh my golly gosh. This is the 2020. So we make a special blend, obviously, because the grapes from this farm were all fair trade, and the normal Bruce Jack isn't, because it's a different blend, right? So the style is completely different as well. And what we're looking for here is a lot more typical Breda Kloof South African tropical notes. So we're looking for, Marlon, it's more like the kind of fruit that you find in here that you would have grown in your homeland, if you know what I mean. It's pineapples and bananas and really tropical, delicious fruit, and that is a huge difference from wines, Sauvignon Blanc wines from the Loire in France or even from New Zealand, and this is what makes South African Sauvignon Blanc so delicious, because it's almost like a combination between the two, the old world and the new world. And we've got the sophistication and the elegance of the old world with this wonderful tropical fruit of South Africa, and the zestiness and the life and the spiciness of a New World or New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc. And I think this combination of things is what's, I think, driven the success of this wine, which is incredibly popular. Lurt, I think I'm going to do a little bit of a T-bone on the braai tonight. I'm sorry to tell you this. I've got my son's lit the braai, so we're gonna drink this tonight with it. Because if God invented a wine that goes with T-bone, it's the Bruichladdich Shiraz. And Ed, I'm not sure if you've had a chance to taste the new blend, but we are seriously excited about this. We had this in a blind tasting with all our red wines about a month ago, about 2 weeks after it was bottled. And we didn't know which wines were which, but it was our lineup, and we put some foreign wines in against it. Some of our competition from places like Spain and Chile and Australia and things. And this really kicked butt. I was really happy for a new bottling. So it has all the sort of the components of Bruichladdich red wine. Shiraz is kind of in my blood, I think, and we want a wine that has an intense fruity core, but at the same time elegance, softness of tannin, drinkability. There are a lot of things that have happened around the world, but one thing that we need to keep reminding the world, Lurt, is that, of course, the braai was invented in South Africa. The oldest evidence of meat ever being cooked on a fire is 800,000 years old in a place called Wonderwerk Caves in the north of our country. And so it is, as a South African winemaker, it is a huge responsibility to make sure that you can make a wine that goes with a braai. What do you think, Ed? How's that showing? Much better than the tank samples.
It's like much better, yes. I just really like to underscore what you said, Bruce, about the quality. I think when we first started on this Fairtrade journey almost 20 years ago, some of the people involved weren't making the greatest of wines. It was a bit of a hard sell. That's completely changed in the last 15, 20 years. And you're dead right that if we don't get the quality right, if people like you don't get the quality right, then the wheels come off the wagon. It makes what we're trying to do completely irrelevant because nobody's going to buy it. The projects won't get funded, and all the good causes we want to support won't get funded. So it's absolutely right that the quality has to be paramount. And both these wines, I think, I would describe both of them as quality but crowd pleasers. I think that they've got a really, really broad appeal to a lot of people, and that's what's so pleasing about it. And this will go. I'm very, very jealous of your braai as well. And sitting here in freezing cold North Manchester. But this would go very well with it, and it's fair trade or not, with or without the social interaction. It's a really, really good bottle of wine, and I think that's our customers aren't stupid. They recognise that, and that's the centre of everything. So yeah, tremendous.
I must say it's very, very smooth and soft in your palate as well. It's I'm not usually a massive. I'm not a huge wine drinker, but one thing I find very difficult is when it feels very heavy. And this just sounds really, really fruity. As soon as you drink it, it's very soft. It feels pretty light in the stomach as well. So I feel like you could probably drink a whole bottle of that in one sitting. It's quite a dangerous start in the afternoon having a few wines, but probably going to have to hide this in.
Dangerous. You don't want to see a dangerous lure. It's not a good idea. No, I agree, Marlon. You know it's kind of quite interesting because I think a lot of any kind of process, even playing rugby, but any sort of business process, and particularly a craft process like making wine, there's a lot about that which involves intent. And the way I describe it to people is that, like, some people can grow plants and other people can't. And I look at, the people who can't grow plants, they add the food and the water and all that kind of stuff, and the plants just don't do well. And other people just walk past a plant, look at it, and with intent kind of say, "Hi, plant," but they don't have to say it. There's just an intention to care about that thing. The plant kind of loves it, right? And no one understands that emotional or that energetic involvement. But there's one thing that any artist will tell you, And I think it goes, for bodybuilders as well. I think it goes for business people as well, that intent is everything. And when you decide to do something with good intent, I think the final result is always good. One wants to do things as egolessly as possible. You want to do things in a way that uplifts other people, where other people can collaborate and benefit from that. And so for me, the whole fair trade notion, the fact that we're involved in Sale Sharks, and with you, superstars who, could so easily be, excuse my language, kind of, sporting arseholes, but instead have the, the selflessness and the character to go out there and actually, give something of yourself back to society. Such a rare thing for guys that are up there on a pedestal like you. It's hugely humbling. Just being in your internet presence and being able to share a glass of wine with you. And I think it wouldn't have been possible without CoOp and the buyer, Ed Robinson, who really does go out of his way to make these things come to reality and come to fruition. And of course, therein lies all the dreams. So it's a wonderful combination of things. And at the end of the day, it's nice to be able to celebrate it with something that tastes good. So I hope, Luet, this weekend I'll be able to crack another bottle in celebration.
I'll finish the rest of mine hopefully Saturday.
Excellent. Well, wonderful. Ed, is there any last comments that you might have?
No, it's really nice to see you all. It's really great to hear the stories from both of you, from the Sale Sharks guys, and it really resonates with me hearing your words, because I lived in the centre of Manchester for 7 years until fairly recently. I can really, your words really echoed. It's something which very much on your doorstep, and so I doff my cap to both of you for what you've been doing, and to Bruce obviously. And I think in our own different ways, we're all united by a common cause, aren't we? And I think to have a beautiful bottle of wine like this at the centre of it is a really nice thing. And so good luck to you, Bruce, with your wines. Good luck to the Sale Sharks. I'm the world's newest converted rugby fan. I'll be rooting for you at the weekend as well.
Brilliant.
Well, maybe Ed, you can encourage CoOp to look at helping Marlon with the centre point stuff, because that might be a nice.
If we could do something, wouldn't it? Yeah, it'd be lovely if we could get closer integration on this kind of thing. And it's a shame we can't be doing this all in person rather than over the internet. That's where we are. But yeah, it would be great to get close to what you're doing, definitely. Sure, and well done. Really pleased to hear it.
Love discussion.
Well, thanks, Ed. So what we'll do is I'll hook you guys up, because I think it just seems a natural fit for what CoOp stands for, and I think what separates CoOp from other retailers, and it's such an inspiration, and it needs people like you, Ed. So thank you for that. And Marlon, your fan base in South Africa has just shot up another 1 million people. So as long as you're not playing rugby against us on the international field, you're going to have a lot of fans rooting for you here, and of course, good luck. And we always love watching you and the excitement that you bring to the game, and the fact that you're also bringing so much joy off the field as well. It just makes it an incredible proposition, and a very humbling one. And Luet, thank you so much. It's always genuinely lekker to chat to you. It's wonderful that you are back on the field. I think the whole of South Africa is both relieved and excited to see that, and you'll have a lot of people a lot more people than normal tuning in to watch the Sale Sharks game. So it's wonderful that you've joined us today, and thank you very much for all joining me and having a glass of wine. Thank you.
Yes, enjoy your T-bone tonight.
I will. Ciao, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.